Blog Talk Radio.
Yo, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Underground Wellness Radio. Appreciate you guys tuning in as well as podcasting. Very, very cool, you guys. We have Jonathan Bailor on the show today. He's the author of The Smarter Science of Slim, Scientific Proof, Fat Loss Facts. That's what I'm talking about, some fat loss facts. It's going to be a really good show. I will admit, I'm just going to keep it real with you guys because that's kind of what I do. I'm not ready for this show at all, but it's all good because typically when I'm not ready for a show, we end up having the best shows. I've just been like eating, sleeping, and breathing the Real Food Summit. You have no idea how much work this is. Like I forgot, like with the Paleo Summit, I forgot how much work that was, and I'm like on a mission to be done by June 15th. That way we can just kind of kick back and work on a few other things before we launch on July 8th. Because last time, I learned my lesson about waiting until the last minute to get stuff done. That was not a good idea. And so kind of consumed with the Real Food Summit, but you guys are totally going to dig it. Again, that's on July 8th, so I'm a little bit behind with my reading. We had Ray Audette ready to rock on Tuesday of next week. He is the author of Neanderthal. We had to reschedule him because, again, we're trying to get all this stuff done. But on Thursday of next week, we're actually going early. I think it's a noontime show. We've got Peter Cohen, who's going to be on this show from PeteCohen.com. We're going to be talking about psychology and personal development and health and fitness and how all that stuff comes together. So he's in the UK, so we're going a little bit early. So it's going to be 12 o'clock Pacific time, 3 o'clock Eastern time next Thursday. And again, no show on Tuesday. Facebook.com/Underground Wellness, Twitter.com/UG Wellness. If you guys want to call in and speak with Jonathan tonight, it's 347-237-5608. One more time, 347-237-5608. Hey, there's a lot of listeners tonight, a lot of people on the switchboard. Thank you guys for tuning in. Of course, you can pick up my ebook, The Dark Side of Fat Loss, in the Underground Wellness store or at darksideoffatloss.com. Underground Workout Manual is in there as well. It's like an in-home workout program with videos to teach you how to do all this stuff. And, of course, you can check out my blog at undergroundwellness.com. There's a really hot blog on there right now that I wrote last night about autism and some of the stuff that we talked about on Thursday with Dr. Shanahan, autism and the brain and infant formula. It's got a pretty huge response, so check that out on the blog. And you guys ready to rock? Let's do this. I'm going to give you Jonathan's bio. Jonathan Bailor has a proven track record for solving tough problems. As the holder of over 20 U.S. patents, Bailor was the inventor of the marquee feature in Microsoft Office 2010. As an entrepreneur, Bailor has started successful businesses, authored 3 critically acclaimed books, produced a promotional magazine, and has helped develop a radio show as well. Some other stuff in here that we'll talk about in a second, but Bailor's new book, The Smarter Science of Slim, has already been hailed as an important new work by top medical professionals, athletes, and health science researchers. And he's on the show tonight. Jonathan, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Sean. It's a pleasure.
Thanks so much for being here. Hey, I forgot to mention, your website is thesmarterscienceofslim.com, and you also have another one at jonathanbailor.com. That's Bailor. You doing good tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you, Sean?
I am great. I like seeing all your posts on my Twitter. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, what did Jonathan send over today? Very cool, man. Thanks for all the info. I really, really appreciate that. Hey, man, we're just going to get started, and I want you to tell me how you became such a nerd.
Well, let's say it's part genetics and, part nature and nurture combined. But, yeah, I've always been interested in health and fitness, as early as I can remember. In fact, as early as high school is really when I began my formal, I would say, foray into this field. I actually became a trainer with Bally's Total Fitness as early as high school. It's how I paid for college. And that's really where this all started. And I began working with clients and, teaching them the traditional eat less, exercise more approach that I was taught as a trainer and that I learned through all traditional media, and was just continually disappointed, as I know you can empathize with, of the lack of long-term results my clients would see when I wasn't there to tell them to just eat less and come on, just spend 2 more hours on the treadmill. And it broke my heart It broke my clients' hearts, and that's really when I started to turn to the academic literature because I was really out of options. I was already a trainer. I'd already gone through that whole rigmarole, but it didn't give me answers that were actually working in the real world. So that began a 10-year journey into the depths of geekdom, working with the most technical people out there and coming up with this alternate approach I call the smarter science of slim.
You seriously went down the rabbit hole. Isn't it a trip how everything that you learned before becoming a personal trainer and while becoming a personal trainer, the stuff you try to implement with your clients, it's completely 100 degrees upside down wrong?
Well, and it is, and it's funny because on one sense, and this is why it gets so confusing, is if you there's certain paradigms where if we believe they're true, if we believe that it's all about the quantity of calories we consume and all about the quantity of the calories we burn off, then a lot of this stuff makes sense. It's like if you believe the world is flat, it makes sense not to go sail to the end of it, but the world isn't flat. It's not
right.
like that. So it makes sense with those paradigms, but sadly, those paradigms are not what have been proven. They're theories, and sadly, they're wrong, and we're paying the consequences for them.
Mm-hmm. Pardon me if this is a redundant question, but what do you mean by the smarter science of slim?
Well, what the smarter science of slim is it's so over the past decade, I've been working, with top researchers around the world, studying over 1,100 scientific and academic journal articles, amounting over 10,000 pages of research. And the Smarter Science of Slim is just a book that simplifies and applies those findings into a lifestyle. It takes sort of what we've been taught. It shows how science doesn't support that, and then it shows what science actually suggests. And the thing that really gets me excited about it is, one, it's surprising, but two, it's people like yourself have been doing such a good job communicating this message, and what we've seen with this research is that we're starting to gain a lot more mainstream acceptance. We've gotten endorsements from top doctors at the Harvard Medical School, Johns Hopkins, UCLA, and just recently the book was approved as curriculum for registered dietitians to get continuing education credits through the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So we're bringing this research, stuff that you've been saying for quite some time, ideally more mainstream. That's what we're trying to do. So and we're having some success, so it's really exciting.
Wow, that's pretty darn impressive. Your book kind of reminds me of a good calories, bad calories, Gary Taubes deal, but it's easy to understand. I remember when I first read Gary Taubes' book the first time, I was like, I got to start over. This is just this doesn't make any sense to me right now. I got to go back to the beginning and hope that it clicks this time because it was really heavy information. So it seems like you're kind of like me. You like to take really complicated things and make them really simple. Is that true?
That's absolutely true, and it's funny because that's, professionally, this currently is not my full-time gig. My full-time job is I'm a program manager at Microsoft, and what I do professionally is I work with the extremely technical people at Microsoft to simplify and apply their concepts. So people are like, why did you write this book? Well, that's what I love to do. I love to take really complicated technical things, both technologically and biologically, and make it so that it's useful for geeky people like myself. So
I like how in the book you really emphasize, just like me, long-term health and fat loss. Long-term, not this short-term, I'm going to drop weight, for a couple of weeks while I get ready for the pool party type of stuff. You're really talking about long-term stuff. So why did you make that emphasis?
Well, we all know, it's been long established how we lose weight in the short term, right? Ask any wrestler or boxer how to make weight, and they'll tell you how to drop 15 pounds in a day. But really, that's not what we're after. At the end of the day, if a woman walks into a formal event, no one asks her how much she weighs. If they're going to judge anything, they're going to judge how her skin glows and how her dress fits and the way she carries herself. And Sean, that has nothing to do with how much she weighs. According to the body mass index, I'm clinically obese. If you've seen a picture of me, I'm not a fitness model or anything, but I'm a pretty in shape dude. Most people would be like, that guy is obese. So
yeah. I think I'm grade 2 overweight on the BMI scale. It's all right. It's cool.
this concept of weight, it traps many of us in a prison. It's kind of like using money to judge success. Like sometimes there's a correlation, but not really. And what we're all after feeling good about ourselves and being healthy. And man, just using weight as an approximation for that, that's just going to cause nothing but frustration. And science really doesn't bear it out, because the techniques we use, as you know, to lose weight are in many ways the things that cause us to gain fat long-term and compromise our health long-term. There's all kinds of ways to just drop weight. It's not healthy, though.
No, absolutely not. Hey, I know when you were personal training, your philosophy was just like mine: calories in, calories out. Eat less, exercise more. No bones about it. That's how it's done. Through your research, what did you find about that universal formula?
Well, the key thing, and it's always, the citation we always hear about why that has to be correct, is the law of thermodynamics, right? Like you go to any internet chat room, and I'm sure you've seen people post this, the law of thermodynamics. Well, and again, it's not crazy. Like there is some sense here, but it's a misunderstanding. There's 4 laws of thermodynamics. 2 of them have nothing to do with what we're talking about here. They have to do with defining absolute zero and other even more geeky subjects such as that. But there are 2 that apply to health and fitness, and they tell us that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only change forms. So what people do is they take that and they make the reasonable logical jump, that if we enter a state of caloric deficit, if we just eat less and exercise more, our body has to burn fat, because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only change forms. But Sean, there's an assumption in there. Well, the laws of thermodynamics, the applicable ones, tell us is that when we're in a state of caloric deficit, our body has to do something. Physical laws do not tell us what our body has to do, and they certainly don't tell us that our body has to burn fat. They just prove that our body has to do something. Now, when we bring biology into the picture, which is really what matters, not physics, biology, we're biological organisms. What study after study shows is that if we just eat less of a diet which has caused us to have suboptimal health and fitness and just do more traditional exercise, 4 things happen. First, we become malnourished, right? We're taking in less nutrition, we become malnourished. Certainly that's not good for our health. The second thing that happens is we slow down, right? Our body doesn't have enough fuel, so it just runs slower. I mean, anyone who's ever eaten less or even just gone a long time without eating has experienced this, right? You're lethargic, your brain is cloudy, you're in a bad mood, your body's just shifted into second gear, doesn't have enough energy. And without taking up too much time, it's not a slight slowdown. I mean, many studies have shown, for example, one at the University of Minnesota, where researchers did a very conservative eat less, exercise more study where they gave participants 1,600 calories per day, which again, quite modest by a lot of what we see out there, and had them walk just a few miles per day, had participants' metabolism slow down by an average of 40%.
What?
Now, if we want to keep fat off our body and improve our health, Sean, you and I both know that slowing our metabolism down by 40% is not helpful. In fact, it's harmful. So first, we become malnourished. Second, we slow down our metabolism. Third, we do start to burn body tissue if we're still in a state of caloric deficit, but it's not fat tissue. It's muscle tissue. Why? We don't have enough calories. So what's our body want to get rid of? Tissue that burns a lot of calories. Can't go after our brain. It hopefully doesn't go after our heart, but it can and will go after our muscle tissue. And again, it's not a little bit. Studies show that up to 70% of the non-water weight we lose if we just starve ourselves comes from muscle tissue. And again, if our goal isn't short-term weight loss, if our goal is long-term health and long-term fat loss, burning off our muscle tissue is the last thing we want to do. If all of that has happened and we still don't have enough calories, then we will burn fat. But at what cost? We've harmed our health and we've set ourselves up for long-term fat gain. So looking back at those laws of thermodynamics, what do they actually prove? Well, when we layer on biology, what they prove is that eating less and exercising more, if we just do that, we actually set ourselves up for long-term fat gain and harm our health. And that's probably why these programs have been proven. They've been proven, Sean, to fail. And you quote this on your blog, 95.4% of the time. They have a 95.4% failure rate. To put that in perspective, the American Cancer Society performed a study on the long-term success rate of quitting smoking cold turkey. Now, this is interesting because nicotine is the third most addictive substance in the world, second only to heroin and cocaine. So what's the long-term success rate for quitting smoking cold turkey, no help? It's 5.5%. The long-term success rate for doing what you and I were taught as trainers and what we all hear out there in the mainstream is 4.6%. So we are more likely to give up the third most addictive substance in the world without any help than we are to achieve our long-term health and fitness goals via what we've all been told. I'm getting a little excited. I have to calm down.
No, get excited. I like it. That's good. We want that. That reminds me of when I was a trainer. 1 in 20 would actually get the results, and it's a trip. Even when I talk to other trainers, I go, "Really, man? How many of your clients actually get results, like long term?" They go, "Not that many. Not very many actually get that." That's right. Just 1 out of 20, maybe even less for some people. Speaking of training, you talked about calories in, but what about the calories outside of things? What about exercise? I'm always fascinated by the whole exercise more. We're not exercising enough. I mean, if you go back to like the 1960s or 1970s, I can imagine if I looked outside, I probably wouldn't see all the people jogging and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Tell us what you think about all that.
Well, so I love this subject because you're exactly right. We hear, we have an obesity problem in this country because we're not exercising enough. To be very clear, and I know you're a pretty young guy, I'm a pretty young guy, so this was a little bit before our time, but, in our parents' generation, especially for women, it is a fact that women were told, we're talking, 50, 60-year-old people, this isn't like great-grandparents, were told when they were growing up that if they exercised, they would become infertile. Like, women were literally not allowed in many university gyms because it was commonly accepted that strenuous exercise was harmful to women. So for us to now say that we have an obesity problem because we're not doing enough of something that we did even less of before there was a problem, it just doesn't make any sense. No. And sure, I mean, again, if we do buy into calories in, calories out, well, it kind of makes sense, but then we miss this huge part of the equation, which you are a wonderful advocate of, and that's hormones. I would never smoke a pack of cigarettes and then say, I'm going to go run a mile because by running a mile, I'll cancel out what those cigarettes did to my lungs. Because we know the cigarettes did something, they fundamentally changed my lungs in some way. What we fail to get told about in our culture is that if we eat 300 calories of sugar and starchy, insane food, not only do we have 300 calories, but we have caused a lasting hormonal and metabolic change in our body that no amount of exercise will just erase away. It's not tit for tat. It's like smoking. It causes a change in our body, and we lose sight of that when we just think we can absolve ourselves of eating junk by exercising. And it doesn't mean exercise is bad. It just means we have to use different kinds of exercises for different kinds of goals. There's exercise that's effective at burning calories, but burning calories isn't really effective for long-term health and fitness. What we want is exercise that changes our hormones. And there are ways to exercise to do that, but it's a very different form of exercise, and it's a form of exercise that we can't do a lot of.
I want to go to the phone lines in a few minutes. We got a caller from the 551 in there hanging out. Again, 347-237-5608, 347-237-5608. If you guys are already in the switchboard, just go ahead and press number 1, and it'll put you in the queue, so I'll know you have a question. So go ahead and jump in there. Jonathan, you talk in your book about Setpoint Weight and hormones. And, as you've been talking about, mostly we just hear about calories. We don't hear about Setpoint Weight. We don't hear too much about the hormonal aspect of this. And so tell us what's the deal with the whole disconnect here. Can you explain that a little more?
Well, you're right. I mean, it is all about hormones. And we know, on some level, societally, we know this. Like, when people have diabetes, we don't tell them to eat less. Like, there's a hormonal problem, and we understand that. Why we as a culture are not told about it, I mean, that I can't. I don't know if people just think it's too complicated for us. I personally don't think it's that complicated.
It's not.
I mean, our body speaks hormones. Like, the way the various aspects of our body talk to each other, metaphorically speaking, is through hormones. So if we want to change the conversation that's happening in our body, if we want to change our body from saying, store this fat, We have to change that hormonal conversation. And the way we do that is by changing the quality of the food we eat, the quality of the exercise we get. It's not a quantity problem. Just like we would change if someone has a heart problem, like if they had a heart attack. Their doctor doesn't really say eat less. Their doctor says eat these foods, not these foods, because it's the quality of food that affects our core metabolic systems. Why we're not told about that, again, I think it's really because we get our nutrition information not from actual experts. We get our nutrition information on like the back of cereal boxes and from the government, which, I'm not going to say they're out to get us because they're not, but they're not biologists. They're not endocrinologists. I mean, even family practitioner doctors, they have so much they need to know. To expect them to be the fountain of nutritional wisdom really isn't fair. There's an entire discipline of medicine and of research called endocrinology, which is just about this. But we don't hear from those people because they don't have marketing budgets,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agree. In fact, I think they are out to get us because being obese and being unhealthy actually makes a ton of money. And I'll come out and just say it. Call me a conspiracy theorist. I'll take it, but it just seems kind of obvious to me. Can you elaborate on the Setpoint deal? We haven't really talked too much about that on this particular radio show.
Yeah, so we're taught that we need to manually balance the calories we take in and the calories we take out. And that's not, just think about any other biological system, right? Like think of our cardiorespiratory system or how much our heart beats. Certainly we can increase our heart rate temporarily and we can decrease our heart rate temporarily, but the way any mission-critical function in our body works is our body automatically regulates it, right? If we had to think about how frequently we blinked, we wouldn't be able to do half of the things we do in a day. Our metabolism and our metabolic system works the same way. Our body composition is automatically regulated around a set point. It's not a theory, it's a proven fact. And this set point is determined primarily by two things, our genetics and our hormones. And we can't change our genetics, but we can change our hormonal balance. And we change that hormonal balance by increasing the quality of the food we eat and the quality of the exercise we get. And when we do that, we can enable our body to automatically regulate our body composition around a slimmer set point. And I know that may sound too good to be true. It's like, did I just say our body will automatically burn fat for us? But we all know people who already do this. They're called naturally thin people. We all know people who eat whatever the hell they want and don't really exercise and stay slim. So it's not a question of, can the human body keep itself slim automatically? There are tens of millions of people who have already proven that to be true. The question is, how can we change our biology to work more like those people's? And actual experts, endocrinologists, biologists have proven how we've done this, how we do this. We just haven't been told about it.
I've been hearing or reading a lot in the blogosphere lately that insulin isn't the issue when it comes to obesity. I could have sworn I was listening to your interview on the Jimmy Moore Living La Vida Low Carb show, and you may have mentioned a study where they took all these people and they didn't really change anything. They just administered insulin to them, and something happened. Do you remember this?
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple things. Insulin absolutely plays a role. However, to say it's just about insulin is kind of like saying it's just about calories. Like it's not. And calories do matter, right? Like if you and I sat down and ate 10,000 calories a day for the next 10 days, we would gain weight. Like, so it's not that calories are irrelevant. It's just that they're a piece of a puzzle, which really isn't that complex, but we need to talk about the whole puzzle. Insulin is another important piece of that, but there's other pieces as well. Other hormones, leptin, ghrelin, other kinds of things. There is a complex system. Insulin is a great component of that, but it is broader than just insulin. And there are studies which show that with any system, if one aspect of that system gets out of whack, the system will still break down. So focusing on insulin is useful, but it is just one piece of the puzzle.
Do you recall the study that you mentioned on Jimmy's show?
Yeah, let me actually. I'm gonna try to think off the top of my head here. There's actually a couple. The one that is most useful, I think, is you take. Well, first of all, it's a well-known medical fact that people who are given insulin as diabetics are generally shown to gain between 10 and 12 pounds in their first year of that medication. The three specific studies, I'm actually looking this up in real time. So
sorry, put you on the spot.
2 seconds. No, it's no problem at all. Here we go. All right. Nope, that's not it. So trying to find the specific study. Here we go. And here we go. Got it. So there's a couple studies. There was a first one was mentioned in the Journal of Diabetic Medicine and found that, just generally speaking, given people, the hormone insulin is not only associated with weight gain, but specifically an increase of belly or trunk fat mass, which is the most dangerous form of fat mass to have on our body because it impairs our organs. Another study done in the Journal of Diabetes and Metabolism reported an average of about 13.2 pounds in weight gain during the first year following the initiation of insulin therapy. And the journal actually went on to conclude and just come out and say that when it comes to taking shots of the hormone insulin, weight gain seems mandatory. Wow. So, I mean, they went so far. And then finally, in the Journal of Diabetes, a title of a study was Intensive Insulin Therapy and Weight Gain in Type 1 Diabetes, and showed that only 2 months of insulin therapy caused a body weight gain of 6 pounds, with the vast majority of that being fat mass, keeping everything else constant. So again, if we just manipulate one component of this system, it absolutely matters, and it's something we need to monitor. It is not the complete picture, however.
Let's go to the phone lines, and then I want to come back and talk about sane and insane calories and stuff like that. Caller from the 551. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Aria. I'm calling from New Jersey.
You said Aria?
Aria. It's like Ari with an extra A.
Gotcha. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate you waiting.
Yeah, man, I'm a long-time listener. I'm finally calling in.
Right on. What's your question?
All right, so my question for it's a two-part question. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
My question for Jonathan is, I know you were talking about this earlier with calorie restriction. I just wanted to know your thoughts on calorie restriction and its effects on longevity.
That's a really good question. So one thing I like to always be open about is what my research did and did not cover. So my research was really focused on the impact of food and exercise on our metabolism and the effects on sort of body composition. So sadly, my research did not cover longevity, so I'm not an expert in that field, so I'm sorry I can't really help with that one. But I can try with your second question.
Well, okay, my second question is, what are your thoughts on implementing, because I know a lot of people that are on calorie-restricted diets, and yeah, it does lower their metabolism, but they've been implementing like a cheat day, like once per week, usually, on the weekend, or for instance, to like raise their leptin levels, and that, in turn kind of helps reboost their metabolism. I guess I just wanted to know, either of you, your thoughts on that. What do you think?
Sean, you want to answer? Or you want me?
Go for it. Hey, I'm just the host. You answer the question.
A couple
hey, you matter too, Sean.
Well, just to clarify really quickly, the actual method of eating that is recommended by my research is not about eating more calories. It's about eating more food. And if we end up eating the right foods, and a lot of them, and that incidentally causes us to consume fewer calories, that's not a bad thing. My research isn't saying intentionally consume more calories. What it's saying is intentionally consume more of certain kinds of foods. And the reason of consuming more of those certain kinds of foods is important is because of the combination of micro and macronutrients they provide. Even if we consume fewer calories, we will avoid the metabolic and muscle wasting effects that are associated with taking a nutritionally deficient diet and eating less of it. There's a big difference between taking a unhealthy diet and just eating less of it, and taking in a huge abundance of nutrition and coincidentally happening to have less calories available to our metabolism. So
right.
That's an important nuance there. So again, I'm not sitting here saying eat 10,000 calories per day. And when it comes to the cheat days, that again is not something that my research. I've never seen any peer-reviewed study, and this doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means I haven't seen it that says, definitely do this, it's good for you. However, in my experience, I use the analogy of a clogged sink, where when we heal ourselves hormonally, just like if a sink is working properly, on occasion we can put the wrong stuff in the sink and the sink won't break down and get clogged. It's the chronic consumption of the wrong stuff. So having a cheat day, I think practically is very helpful for a lot of people, because if you tell someone they can never have something ever again, it's generally a formula for failure. But myself, once I began living this lifestyle, the desire to cheat and how I felt after I cheated, like the migraines I would get and the inability to sleep, caused me to just stop cheating. And it was more painful to cheat than it was not to cheat, if that helps.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I agree. But you could definitely say that, like, eating, I mean, I know this would be really hard, but like 10,000 calories of, really healthy foods like broccoli and, grass-fed meats, you would, eventually gain weight, right?
Oh, and that's the key thing. Again, we have risks of oversimplifying it on both ends of the spectrum. Calories do matter. It's just that they're irrelevant when we eat the right kinds of food. Like, you will never overeat non-starchy vegetables, natural proteins. You will never, like, your stomach would explode before you overate that. Like, it's physically impossible to fit 10,000 calories of those types of foods into our body. So that's why I so ardently recommend focusing on quality, not because quantity is irrelevant, but because when you focus on quality, everything else takes care of itself.
Right.
Yes, sir. Just eat real food. Really hard to overconsume it. Aria, thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Oh, all right. Let's go to the 334. What is your name? Where are you calling from? 334? 33? Are you there? I can hear you. We're going to come back. And let's go to the 315. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Gina. I know I'm 315, but I'm calling from Maui.
Right on. Thanks for calling in, Gina. What is your question?
Oh, Sean, first, I'm a big admirer, and I am just loving Jonathan's explanations. So between Jerfin and the simple, the slim book, this is just perfect for the people I work with. And being that I do work with eating disordered women, I try to get them where they're at, and they will possibly think about letting go of dieting and restricting and over-exercising when it comes to their fertility. So my question to Jonathan was if he saw any research or data on, taking the over-exercising, which I am one of those people. I'm 57. We didn't exercise, and we were naturally thin. But if you take the over-exercising and the dieting or the food restricting, if there are any studies showing when that really all started and the infertility rate that women are now experiencing, which is they're very high right now. Are there any studies or anything that I can point my women to?
Fascinating. So if I understand you're asking if there's been any sort of like long-term studies just showing any correlation between the rise in dieting and the rise of exercise, which it did take place in the 70s. So basically 1977 is when the government, the Senate Select Committee on Nutritional Needs came out and said, to solve obesity, eat less and exercise more. They didn't use those words, but they used very close to those words. And then we saw an exponential rise in these things. I have not seen data formally correlating those two things. However, it would be simple enough to, we have those data, so we can create an Excel chart pretty easily.
Right.
But I haven't seen a formal study, sadly, that correlates those two. Sean, I don't know if you have.
I have not.
Okay. Anything that related those the dieting and exercise in the 70s, and then also the increase, anything around that time to infertility?
Well, what I can say is this. So fertility is a hormonal issue. And it absolutely is. And when we starve, our body is designed to prevent us from dying. Creating life is a pretty metabolically taxing thing to do. In fact, one could argue it's the single most metabolically any woman who's had a child probably tell you it has more stress on the body than anything else. So, you know, if we're in a state of starvation and we do not have enough nutrition, if our body is going to burn muscle, which has been proven, I can only imagine that protecting itself from further stress, such as trying to create another life when it's trying to protect its own, I can only imagine that has to be related.
Right. Yeah. And most of them do. The athletes that I have are all amenorrhea. They haven't had their periods for years, so obviously they are infertile. And that is the hormonal cause, correct, of the body mass.
It's also the general push we have in our culture to move away from natural proteins and natural fats, right? We must have natural proteins and natural fats to live, like we have to, and we must to synthesize and utilize hormones correctly. However, we're told to get about 65% of our calories from carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is not bad. Vegetables are carbohydrates, and they're fantastic for us. But to say that we need to eat the vast majority of our calories from them does result in hormonal malfunction, which I can only imagine has an impact. I mean, especially in men, for example, a low intake of fat and protein has absolutely been shown to negatively affect testosterone levels, and in women and men together, growth hormone levels, things like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your excellent work. And, Sean, thanks for having Jonathan and all your great guests on. Loving you both.
No problem. Hang on for 2 seconds, Gina.
Sure.
I recommend that you go on Facebook and look up Fact Finder Steph. That's Fact Finder Steph, STEPH. She just started a website called factfindersteph.com. She's who did all of the fact-checking and all the research and whatnot for my book. And so hit her up. She can literally find anything. And pretty soon, actually, in the summertime, we're going to be launching a product on, like, teaching everybody how to do their own scientific research in the field of, like, health and nutrition. So it should be pretty cool.
Whoa.
So look her up. Yeah, we're working on that right now.
Stuff. Fabulous. Yeah. Thank you. Fat Finder Steph.
Yep, she rocks. She's super smart.
Thank you.
No problem, Gina. Thanks for calling in.
Aloha, Sean.
Aloha. All right, let's go back to the 334, see what's up over there. 334, are you there this time?
I am.
No? Oh, what's up? What's your name?
I'm here. Hi, my name is Tiffany. I'm calling from Alabama.
Thanks for calling in. What is your question, Tiffany?
My question was, in the beginning, Jonathan talked about exercising to change your hormones. I'm a insulin-resistant hormonal mess, and just trying to heal myself with real food, but trying to get out of the mindset of spending 2 or 3 hours at the gym. So what type of exercise would you recommend to change your hormones?
Well, my research showed, well, it's not really my research, other people's research that I then referenced showed, and Sean, do we have a second? I would like to give a little bit more of a detailed explanation here, if that's all right.
You got as long as you want. Take your time.
All right, cool. So just like we have different muscles on our body, like our arm muscles work our arms, our leg muscles work our legs, we actually have different fibers within our muscles. So, for example, we have what's called type 1A muscle fibers, and these muscle fibers allow us to do a little bit of work for a long time. Like they're what enable our mouth to move and our fingers to type and our legs to walk all day, and we don't really get tired. Now, by contrast, we have 4 different types of muscle fibers. I'm going to skip right to the last one, which is your type 2B muscle fibers. These muscle fibers are just the opposite of the type 1A. They enable us to generate a lot of force, but for a very short period of time. They're generally used only, like historically, in emergency type situations. Like if you drop something very heavy on your foot and you traditionally couldn't lift that, somehow you magically can. That's because you're tapping into your type 2B muscle fibers. Now, what researchers have shown in a very exciting fashion, I get into this in detail in the book, is that it's when we work these deeper muscle fibers, these type 2B muscle fibers and our type 2 muscle fibers in general, those are the muscle fibers that trigger this hormonal reaction. It's not that traditional exercise, which works, cardiovascular type exercise, walking on a treadmill, anything we can do for 30 minutes or more That works our type 1A muscle fibers. It's not bad. It just doesn't work the muscle fibers which are responsible for this hormonal change. To work those muscle fibers, we have to perform exercise with more resistance because these muscle fibers only get activated when we have to generate a lot of force. So, for example, instead of doing 20 bicep curls with 5 pounds, we would be much better served taking a heavier form of resistance and, for example, slowly lowering it. So finding ways to use more resistance and more taxing exercise, but in a very safe way. And this is a type of training in the book I describe as eccentric training, which I know Sean's familiar with, and it has to do with, instead of focusing on lifting weights, focusing on lowering weights, because by doing this, we can enable our muscles to generate maximal force while also staying extremely safe, because all we're doing is slowly and very controlled lowering weight. So instead of doing like a push-up, for example, you would do a lower down. I know it sounds a little bit silly, but it is the proven way to require our muscles to generate more force, work these different muscle fibers, and therefore get a different and much more impactful hormonal result.
Does that answer your question, Tiffany?
Absolutely.
Nice. Any follow-up, or you good?
I think I'm good. Thank you so much.
No, and the way you do that, you might be like, well, how do I actually do that? I do that. I definitely talk about that in more detail in the book. So
check out the book by Tiffany. Let's go. I want to do another call, then I want to do a Facebook question and get back to our questions. I don't think I got to 714. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Wait, hello?
Hello. What's happening?
Oh, okay, cool. Hold on one second. I got you on the headset. Yeah, so I've been listening, and I just want to know what you guys think is too much exercise.
Jonathan?
Again, this is thank you for asking this question, because I do not mean to suggest that exercise is bad and that we should intentionally exercise less. My research didn't show that, for example, walking on the treadmill for a half hour is somehow healthier than walking on the treadmill for an hour. The issue is that it's walking on the treadmill that isn't effective. And when we do higher quality exercise, it's pretty simple, right? Like if we were to sprint, we can't sprint for as long as we can walk. So when we do what I call higher quality exercise, when we work our deeper and our more impactful muscle fibers, we can't exercise a lot. If you go out right now, and I don't recommend doing this, but it's an easy example, and put a 100-pound backpack on your back and sprint up stadium steps, you can't do that every day for 2 hours. So it's not that exercising a lot is bad, it's that exercising a lot is indicative of exercising with low quality. And when we exercise with low quality, we aren't triggering a hormonal response or the optimal hormonal response in our body. So it's not about like being lazy or just exercising less. It's about making ourselves too sore to exercise a lot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense now.
So again, it's not don't exercise. It's focus on working your muscles with higher quality. Focus on going deeper into the muscle with more resistance. And then the next day, you won't wake up and be like, oh, man, should I exercise today? You'll be like, oh, my God, how am I going to walk down the steps? So you won't be able to exercise more. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Got a follow-up, or does that answer your question?
No, and then Sean, I just want to give you a shout out because I'm an Aztec myself.
What? You represent SDSU?
Yeah, I used to actually see you in the ARC, but you guys were too expensive to train me, so.
well, thanks so much for calling in, my Aztec brother.
All right, man, cool.
Have a good night. Hey, actually, we'll get to the Facebook questions in a second. I want to jump to this question about SANE. SANE. What does that stand for?
So SANE is just an acronym for the 4 factors that science has shown determine the quality of a calorie. I talk about high-quality calories and high-quality exercise. Well, SANE calories are high-quality calories. Insane calories are low-quality calories. And SANE stands for the 4 factors, which are satiety, aggression, nutrition, and efficiency. To break those down really quickly, high-quality calories have high satiety. They're satisfying. They fill us up quickly, and they keep us full for a long time. They're unaggressive. High-quality calories are unaggressive, meaning they don't dump a bunch of glucose or energy into our bloodstream all at once, overwhelming our body and forcing us to store fat. High-quality calories or SANE calories are then nutritious. They provide us with a vast amount of vitamins and minerals and macronutrients such as protein and essential fatty acids per calorie. Per calorie is an important distinction. And finally, high-quality calories are inefficient, meaning that it's not easy for our body to convert them into fat. Most people don't know this, but we actually burn about 10% of the calories we burn every day simply turning food into energy or stored energy body fat onto our body. And different foods are processed very differently by our body. For example, to turn 300 calories worth of protein, to actually metabolically convert that into body fat would burn 200 calories. So even if we could live in an imaginary world where we were completely sedentary, eating 300 calories of protein and no movement would cause 100 calories of fat to be stored. 200 would be lost in all the chemical reactions leading up to that. However, like a starch is twice as efficient. 200 calories worth of 300 calories of starch could be converted into body fat. So we can actually eat more food and actually have less calories available to our body by eating inefficient food. So SANE, high-quality calories are satisfying, unaggressive, nutritious, and inefficient.
So the diet program in your book, is it just kind of along the lines of just eat real food? Is it paleo? What's it like?
It's very, very similar to paleo. It's very similar to real food. It has a little bit of nuance, but it's really, again, focused. Eat way more non-starchy vegetables. So way more, kale, spinach, carrots, onions, peppers, things like not potatoes and corn. And then focus on eating way more protein. So Greek yogurt, organic grass-fed beef, chicken, whey protein, eggs, things like that, and natural fats, nuts, seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, coconut, cocoa, almonds, all that kind of stuff. So it is very similar to paleo. There are some nuances, but by and large, a paleo diet is a SANE diet. SANE is a bit more permissive than paleo, but paleo is a SANE diet, and that's why so many people achieve so much success on it.
One of my Facebook friends was asking about the fat content. She noticed that there was like egg whites and skinless chicken and whatnot. So is there any issue with the saturated fats?
No, so it's not at all that saturated fats are bad for you. It's that it is easy to overconsume fat. For example, I love peanut butter. Love it. I love natural peanut butter, and I love coconut. I could sit down and consume 2,000 calories of coconuts without thinking about it. But I love eating coconut, and I want to continue to eat coconut. So if I want to get a balance of calories from protein, carbohydrate, and fat, instead of eating 3 eggs scrambled and some coconut, which would give me, 70% of my calories from fat and maybe 30 from protein, probably less than that actually, to ensure that I get a balance, I personally would eat a mixture of egg whites and eggs and then have some coconut afterwards so that it's a balance. But if it's all about a balance. So it's not about eating low fat intentionally, but if you do want to eat a lot of nuts and seeds and enjoy fats in those forms, then and you're interested in a balanced ratio of protein, carbohydrate, and fat, then you just have to pick where you get your fat from. It's not at all that fat is bad. The book goes into massive detail on how important fat is, and even saturated fats such as medium-chain triglycerides. It's simply that getting a diverse set of fat is very important. So I recommend, mixing egg whites with whole eggs. You're still getting all of the fat in the whole egg, but you're boosting the protein content. Same thing with, steak is fine for you, but if you want to then eat a handful of nuts afterwards, it may be in your best interest to eat a leaner cut rather than a fattier cut. Not because fat's bad, but because you want to get your fat from another source, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Facebook question from Mike. Which fat do we lose first, visceral or subcutaneous?
That is a good question. My research did not provide a definitive answer of which goes first. So sadly, I do not know the answer to that question.
Let's try. That's all good. Let's try Mike's second question. Are ketones a good marker of fat loss? And if so, what time of day should it be measured? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so again, that's not my research was very specific to, again, these clinical studies, and I did not uncover any that said, optimize your ketone levels to this, that, and the other thing. So sadly, I do apologize. I like to keep my commentary restricted to what I know.
When I'm on the show and they ask me something I don't know, I'm like, I don't know. I can't know everything. I was on, whose show was on? Dr. Axe's show, and somebody called in was like, what's the best way to start smoking? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I have no idea. Let's see. Let's try this one from Brooke. Does the natural sugar in fruit prevent fat loss? Let's see if you got anything on that one.
Yeah, so that is, again, this is a tough one because your body doesn't care where sugar's coming from. Like what we hear in the mainstream, I mean, to be clear, berries and citrus fruits, so when I talk about SANE, there are SANE fruits. They're berries and citrus fruits. However, things like apples, bananas, and grapes, if you look at their fructose content, which is a uniquely fattening sugar, relative to the amount of fiber and nutrients they provide, they are absolutely fattening, and they're absolutely possible to overeat. Like if you ate 10 bananas in a day, I know there's some girl on YouTube that seems to do that with great success, but we'll talk about that later. Absolutely. Your body, again, if you drink apple juice or Coke, they both contain 30 grams of sugar. Your body's not like, oh, well, one came from apple juice. Again, if fruit is good if it's SANE fruit, berries and citrus fruits, because of the fiber and the nutrient content, it does contain some sugar, but it's sugar in a moderate form accompanied by a lot of other good stuff. So can fruit inhibit some people from fat loss? Absolutely. When a lot of people try what we call a SANE lifestyle, if they've had a lot of yo-yo dieting in the past, they just don't do any fruit at the beginning, and they focus just purely on natural fats, proteins, and non-starchy vegetables. And then as they begin to see results, they may work fruit in, but again, fructose is fructose. It does not matter where it's coming from in terms of fructose. It's good if we can take in fructose with a vast majority of other things, but it's still fructose.
Man, the fruitarians are coming after you. Don't say nothing bad about fruit.
It's not bad. It's not bad, but it is fructose.
By Durian Rider, it's on. People ask me about fruit, I'm like, oh, man, here we go. Let's go back to the phone lines. Caller from the 405. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, my name's Jeff. I'm calling from Oklahoma.
You said Jeff?
Yeah.
Thanks for calling in, Jeff. What's your question?
I got a question for both of you. I'm 56 years old. I started eating hay meal about 2.5 years ago. I went from about 320 pounds to bouncing around between 215 and 225. Still got belly fat, type 2 diabetes. Eat a paleo diet, but kind of having a hard time breaking through that. Any suggestions?
Jonathan?
Sean, you want to go first on this?
Go for it. You're way smarter than me. Go for it.
Well, I think one thing that a lot of people have seen success, at least with my research, is with the exercise component, because a couple things. So with the vast majority of the population will never work their type 2. Like we have an entire set of muscle fibers. You know, they talk about we only use 3% of our brain. Well, we only use a small fraction of our actual muscles. And the research is unequivocal that when we work our type 2B muscle fibers, we create a hormonal response that is just simply impossible via any other mechanisms. There's studies that have gone so far in that when researchers would take rats and they would just engineer them to have more of these type 2B muscle fibers, they would then feed these rats they would just pump them full of sugar, and the rats would not gain fat, and their blood sugar levels would not get abnormal. It was as if this muscle tissue had literally immunized them. A researcher's name is Izuma, and he's over at Boston University. It is just profoundly exciting research. So I would recommend looking into what I would call high-quality or eccentric exercise, which is something that is very new. Not a lot of people, like you can't go to your gym and ask the average trainer, hey, can you show me how to exercise eccentrically? But it is hugely powerful from a hormonal perspective and can oftentimes serve as a catalyst for this hormonal change. And in fact, like Professor Rady over at the Harvard Medical School and a lot of other individuals are beginning to recommend this for diabetes, where they're seeing just these teeny tiny doses of very high-quality exercise having a profound impact on insulin levels and blood sugar levels. Because, again, think about it like the difference. This is sort of a little bit not perfect of an analogy, but think of the difference between like a baby aspirin and Percocet. Like, there is just so much more potency, and when you have such a more potent stimulus, you can get such a different dramatic result, and that's what this type of exercise does. So that may be something for you to check out. Jeff, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I do. I have, of course, being 56 and overweight so long, I've kind of got some orthopedic issues. I've had a neck fusion, and I've had a laminectomy in my back, so does your book recommend any type of that type of exercise that you can do with orthopedic issues?
So the good news is this form of exercise is incredibly safe, because what eccentric training is, it's just, for example, we all know how to sit on the toilet. We just do a little squat action. Well, instead of, traditional exercise would have you squatting up and down and a bunch of herky-jerky movements and could potentially aggravate your back. Well,
yeah,
what an
squat
eccentric
killed me.
Exactly. But with an eccentric training, what you would do is potentially just get down into the bottom squatting position, supporting yourself and just holding that position. Think of it a bit more like a Pilates or a yoga, where it's incredibly slow and it's incredibly controlled. And because of that, I don't have an anterior cruciate ligament in my right leg. I've blown my right knee out 3 times, and I didn't get the third surgery, so I'm literally missing a ligament, and I'm missing a meniscal disc in my right leg. This training, and my brother has had fused discs in his neck. This kind of training is really the only kind of training we can do because of these physiological limitations. We can't move laterally. We can't run up and down hills. We can't do these kinds of things. But this type of training, and frankly, it's very popular in physical therapy circles, not in popular literature, but physical therapists have been doing this for a long time because it's so easy on the joints and so low stress on ligaments and things like that.
That sounds great. I'm glad to hear it. Thanks for the information. You bet.
Thanks for calling in. Congrats on your weight loss.
You bet. Thank you.
Yep. All right, I got 2 more questions for you, and I'm feeling very Santa-ish right now. So the next caller, I'm going to give a free Paleo Summit. So I'll do one more caller. You get a free Paleo Summit. Call in now, 347-237-5608. It's really going to suck if nobody calls, because that means nobody wants the Paleo Summit.
I'm calling on my cell phone right now. Hold on. I got you.
Let's see, where do I want to go here? Hey, I was listening to the Jimmy Moore show that you did, and there's a quote from you that I really liked. I just want you to expand upon it. You said, biology is not a matter of opinion. Talk about that.
So, Sean, we can, for example, if an individual is you can be sane and be a vegetarian. What I'm about to say is nothing against vegetarianism. However, if people want to talk about, for example, not eating meat, there is a moral aspect to that, for example, and there's an environmental aspect to that, and those can be debated. However, it is not a matter of, like when you eat a piece of food, we can study, and we have studied what that does to your body. Like, it is not a matter of opinion what happens when you consume bread. That's like saying it's a matter of opinion what happens when you take penicillin. Like, any chemical that you put into your body can be studied, and we can prove objectively in a lab what it does. So biology is not a matter of opinion, but we continue to hear opinions. People talk, well, I think, I had success doing this, or Tommy had success doing that. You know what? Tommy also comes from a family who are genetically predisposed to being huge in terms of a musculature, or Sally comes from a family where her parents have always had super skinny figures. So what Sally does may not at all be what you should do, because Sally has different genetics. So we have to move away. But eating and exercise is no different than medicine. It has to do with stimulus applied to the body. And that's something we can study, we have studied, and there are scientific facts telling us what we should do. Doctors don't have opinions about how to treat diabetes. They study it, and they prove, and then they are like, okay, give people insulin. And it doesn't mean they're perfect. It doesn't mean the science doesn't change. But what it does mean is that we don't need to argue about these things. We need to use science to see what's been proven, and let's build off of that. Let's stop arguing about it. It's not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of fact. Let's just get to the facts.
Amen. Hey, Jonathan, how much time do you have left to hang out?
I'm having a good time, so it's all good.
Okay, because I've created quite the monster because a whole bunch of people just called. I guess they want the paleo summit. There was like a good 30 seconds there where like nobody called in. I was a little offended, but we're good now. Let's go to the 614. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name's Tom, calling from Columbus.
Tom,
614. I am from Columbus, Ohio as well, Tom. Go Buckeyes.
Oh, awesome. Awesome, yeah.
What's your question, Tom?
I just have a little question. I've switched over to a paleo diet about a year and a half ago, and probably lost about 20 pounds from it. It was very helpful, and essentially I'm kind of hitting the point where the whole safe starts thing, I kind of experimented with that because I found in my job is pretty physical and it needed more calories, and I thought I would try adding more carbs where I typically use more fat. And it's okay, but I'm kind of finding I think the fat might have been a little better, and I'm not sure which direction to go. I just basically need more calories and not sure what's the best route to go with that.
Well, Tom, I'll tell you my recommendation would be absolutely to go the natural fat route. And and I also say that because it's not only hormonally more beneficial, but this is an emerging field of science which is so exciting. For example, the medium-chain triglycerides found in coconut are showing some incredibly promising things. The omega-3 fatty acids in chia seeds and flax seeds. And not only that, but it's immensely practical. Like, take 2 tablespoons of flax seeds or chia seeds and 2 tablespoons of coconut manna, which is just coconut ground up into like a peanut butter type substance.
Oh, I've got about 5 pounds of that right now, so I definitely know what you're talking about.
You can pound that stuff, and that's 700 calories right there, and that's not going to cause
a lot of carbs though. I think there's a good amount of carbs in that though.
Yeah, well, and I'm not super familiar with paleo, but it's my impression that paleo is not like an Atkins type diet where it's no carbs. It's just, I think it's like sub 30% of your calories from carbs. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not. Paleo is more of a guideline, I guess, but I don't really target macronutrients, so.
Okay, well, yeah, so again, carbs aren't bad. I mean, to be very clear, right, non-starchy vegetables, my research shows, are the single most beneficial food we could ever consume, and they're carbs. Like, carbs aren't the enemy. Low-quality food is the enemy. There's low-quality carbs, there's low-quality protein, and there's low-quality fat. So the question is not, should I avoid carbs? The question is, avoid low-quality food. So high-quality fats that are going to contain some, again, carbs are not bad. Natural food, yes. Eating food has carbs in it. So I wouldn't be too worried about that.
You busted me on that because you made me realize that a lot of junk has creeped into my diet. So if I had to subtract that, it wouldn't be an issue, So what do you think of green supplements, by the way? And that's really the last thought I have for you.
So if the choice is between nothing or like a wheatgrass or a spirulina, I absolutely taking those in supplement form is better. I personally am a huge fan of whole foods. So when you, not the grocery store, but if you can get a nice blender and throw some spinach in there and maybe throw some strawberries in there and throw some vanilla whey protein and some coconut in there, and you can just drink that, that's going to be a lot better for you, my research would show.
I do eat a lot of like broccoli and things like that, but I'm not too adventurous with the vegetables. So,
well, and this is going to sound odd, but I have yet to have anyone who's had a just horrible experience with this. If you can swing like a nice blender and you can put like a handful or two of spinach. I know it sounds odd. Put some tasty like vanilla or fruit flavored whey protein, maybe like a handful of strawberries, and you won't even taste the spinach. And that's how I get 90% of my vegetables is actually in blended smoothie form because it also enables me to eat raw vegetables, and I find it really convenient.
Tom, I got a Vitamix last week, And it's like
vitamins.
the best.
Love it.
It's the best thing I've ever bought in my life. I've eaten more vegetables in the last week than I have in like the last year. Seriously, that's all I do. Is I just juice vegetables all the time. Of course, I eat my meats and all that stuff, but when you can juice your vegetables, makes it so much easier because I'm not a huge fan of vegetables at all.
And Sean, when you say juice, you actually mean blend, right? Like blend it up in the vitamins.
Blend, not juice. Yeah. Thanks for correcting me. Yeah, blend. Thing's awesome. It's kind of pricey, but it's totally worth it. Tom,
it's got that 7-year warranty on it, so it's like, if you can keep it for 7 years, it's pretty good.
Heck yeah. Tom, send me an email, Sean@undergroundwellness.com, and include your phone number. That way I'll know it's you, and I'll send you out a free Paleo Summit. As for everybody else who was called in tonight, because I just don't want to discriminate and just give it to one person. So Jeff, Aria, Gina, Tiffany, my man from SDSU, send me an email, and I will get you out a Paleo Summit. And obviously, Tom, thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Yep. And obviously my audience likes to be bribed to call in, so we got a lot more people in the switchboard now. Caller from the 973, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, it's Deirdre.
Deirdre, thanks for calling in. What is your question?
Oh, my question is I am a breastfeeding mom, and I have lost a lot of weight after I have an 18-month-old son, and I've been eating paleo, and but I crave carbs. So I've been making a lot of almond bread and stuff like that, but I really love carbs. So what do you think about that?
And when you say carbs, do you specifically mean starches and sweets?
I do. Like I like dark chocolate, rice cakes, brown rice. Try to do as high quality as possible, but.
Well, so here's what I'll say. So a couple things. Let's be very clear that, there's never been a study performed that says if you eat quinoa, which is a very high, like if you're going to eat a starch, it's a very high quality starch, you will die. Like, clearly it's not like sugar is toxic. High fructose corn syrup is toxic. Starch generally causes bad health and hormonal chaos. However, clearly there are billions of people around the world who eat starch on a regular basis and aren't just dropping dead. So, I don't want to paint this picture where, if you ate 3 rice cakes a day, you're clearly that's not, so a big part of the Smarter Science of Slim is advocating it's not about perfection, right? It's just about being conscious of what we're doing. And for example, not being like, I'm not going to eat that steak because it has fat in it. Instead, I'm going to eat this plate of pasta because it's low fat. And not to do that. But again, I would if you're breastfeeding and if you're craving these foods and if you're able to control that craving, one, starches are different from sweets. Try to steer clear of the sweets. But if it's just like a rice or a quinoa or the whole grains, again, they're not poison. They're just not the best foods you could be eating.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, we eat like grass-fed meat, we eat raw dairy, we eat, very high-quality food, but it is definitely after dinner, I like to have a very small piece, maybe not so small, but of like 80% chocolate or,
Well, and that's I would say a different story actually because that's going to have a little bit of sugar in it, but I would actually feel a little bit less bad about that because cocoa is one of the most healthy foods in the world. I mean, the antioxidants and all that kind of fun stuff. And again, remember, it's not about perfection. So please don't ever, I would not, at least unless you're, if you're getting ready to be on the cover of a magazine, you might want to beat yourself up about that. But if you're just trying to live a long, happy, and healthy life, seeking perfection is not the way to get there. That's the way to be disappointed all the time. So, here's what you're saying. You're already conscious of this. You're saying, let's do the darkest chocolate. Let's do the chocolate that has the least sugar in it, and let's savor it in moderation. to me, you're hitting a home run there. You're treating it's a treat, and you're savoring it. I think that's just fine.
Deirdre, if it makes you feel any better, every few weeks or so, I'll have dark chocolate covered almonds for breakfast.
Love, yes. And sometimes I find myself doing stuff like that, but it is like a higher quality, chocolate or with almonds or something like that.
And there's some creative things you can do as well. I know paleo is not a big fan of dairy, but my research did show that things like Greek yogurt and cottage cheese and whey protein can be very helpful. So I do things, for example, I make a peanut butter pie filling out of Greek yogurt, peanut butter, vanilla whey protein, some vanilla extract, and some stevia. And oh my God, I have a huge sweet tooth. I love that. I do a natural peanut butter with flaxseed oil, cocoa, full fat cocoa. This thing called Ultimate Muscle Provider from Beverly Nutrition. It's a very unique protein supplement, and it makes this fudge which you can also bake up, and it turns into a brownie, and then I top it. I mean,
God. You have to post the recipe. That's awesome.
No, and the recipe is totally up on the website. Just look for SANE Fudge.
That's great.
It's not about a life of deprivation. That's no fun. It's just about making smart choices, and you're doing that, so it's all good.
Deirdre, thanks for calling in.
Cool.
All righty, have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
And, Deirdre, I'm sure you're still on the line there. Make sure you email me, Sean at undergroundwellness.com, SEAN, with your phone number, and I'll get you the Paleo Summit. The website that Jonathan was talking about, let me get my volume back up. The website that Jonathan was talking about is thesmarterscienceofslim.com, so everybody check that out and check out his book as well. Where are we going? To the 347? Caller from the 347, what is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Lisa calling from the beautiful Bronx. How you doing?
Lisa from the Bronx, what's happening?
Not much, just enjoying your show. Thanks very much.
Right on. What is your question?
A couple of questions. Actually, I thought of one while I was listening to another caller. I love veggies, but the thing is, when I have them with my breakfast, it just takes a really long time to chew.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one question. And my other question is, I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome for about 16 years, and then when I was diagnosed finally with celiac disease, I realized that IBS just stands for it's bullshit. And so then I went gluten-free for about 5 years, but the last year and a half of it, I was getting sick again. And then someone on the gluten-free Facebook page had suggested paleo, so I've been paleo for about 8 months now. And I feel awesome. I lost weight. I have energy. I have more focus and concentration, but I still get diarrhea.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what the issue is.
So let me answer both of these. The chewing thing, I think you're going to hear the same thing from both Sean and I, which is there's this thing called the Vitamix, which is the Uber chewing machine.
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking, too.
Because, I don't, right in my office refrigerator right now, I have, I already drank one of them, but I have another one. It's just this water bottle, and it's full of this, it's green, but it's quite tasty, and it represents 6 servings of non-starchy vegetables. And I could be drinking it right now while I'm on the phone. I mean, to try to consume the amount of non-starchy vegetables that my research recommends we optimize our health at, you can't. You'd be eating all day long.
Yeah.
So really the only way to do it is to get a machine to chew for you, which is the Vitamix does a great job. So I would recommend checking that out. And Sean, it sounds like you would too.
Absolutely.
That's the one that's like $600 though, right?
Well, I think it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
It's a little pricey. It's worth it though. I spent a lot of time
research,
not buying it because of the expense. But once I got it, I freaking loved it. It was about $400 or so. I feel like we're doing a Vitamix infomercial right now. I'm going to request a payment from them tonight.
No doubt.
But my buddy sells them. You can go to spinachman.com. Spinachman.com. My buddy Ingo will get you all set up over there.
All right, cool, thanks.
Jonathan, the second question?
Second question, about the diarrhea issue, but not going away.
Yeah, what I can tell you, I mean, at least, so we have a Smarter Science of Slim support group here on the website, and irritable bowel syndrome is one issue that people have brought up as going away when they've taken on a more sane lifestyle. My research did not cover it specifically. However, I mean, if you do check out the smarterscienceofslim.com, click on the support group tab, you can anonymously say, I've been having this problem. Here's what I've been doing. and I think at least 2 or 3 readers will be able to chime in and say, hey, here's what I'm doing, and here's how it went away.
Okay, yeah, because here I am. I'm all proud that I'm gluten-free and I haven't been cheating, and then I'll get sick if I go to a restaurant and they swear up and down it's gluten-free, and then I wind up getting sick for 3 weeks. And then the same thing with paleo. I'm really careful at home, and everybody at home is paleo, and I don't know. I'm wondering if maybe because I cook on the weekend and then I have food throughout the week, that maybe that's causing it because it's not freshly cooked. I mean, I'm wondering if there are other variables involved.
There very well may be. And the other thing we can do, like if we get you up in the support group, is obviously the last 10 years, I built up some wonderful relationships with some of the, top researchers around the world and some wonderful holistic nutritionalists, people who have, these kind of tactical answers, like what to do about irritable bowel syndrome. They can answer it much better than I can, and I can definitely try to get you in touch with them as well.
All right, great. Yeah, I would appreciate that. Thanks.
Lisa from the Bronx, thanks for calling in.
All right, thanks so much, Sean.
Send me an email for your Paleo Summit. All right. Caller from the 404, what is your name? Where you calling from?
Is that me? Tori?
That is you.
From Athens. Sweet. I actually didn't think I was going to get through. This is Tori from Athens, Georgia. Thanks
for calling in. What is your question, Tori?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I'm a big fan. Thanks a lot. And also, if it's possible, instead of the Paleo Summit, I would love the dark side of fat loss, but I understand if that's not possible. But my question for
That's cool. That saves me money. That's cool. Yeah.
Dude, that's
I'll get you set up with that.
Dude, I have literally read every paleo book. I listen to everybody's podcast. I'm like, on it. I cook every meal for my family. We eat all grass-fed, local, blah, blah, blah. But so my question is kind of just for for your guest is, with his research, I'm kind of the area that I'm in right now, and I feel like I've conquered the macronutrients, I've conquered the micronutrients, I've done all this. I'm really interested in testing, and I cook everything. I kind of feel like I'm a little bit of a home personal chef, so I'm really interested in cooking techniques and methods, especially methods that can enhance or keep from messing up, precious nutrients and enzymes, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm curious about just testing in general, and this is something, Sean, that I wanted to ask or recommend to you as well, is that I know I actually attended your webinar with, I'm excited that I'm on the air. I can't remember. What's that?
Reed Davis.
Yeah, with Reed Davis. And all that stuff is very interesting, but I still get really confused with, I just think a comprehensive podcast or blog post about panel testing and what's what and all that would be amazing for the entire community. But that's so back to kind of my main thing with your guest is just in his research, kind of in an advanced state, like as far as testing goes, what benefits for if there was any kind of awareness as far as like taking yourself to kind of a next level through testing and through awareness of just your body and your biochemistry, and also any research that was done particularly in the realm of cooking and food preparation.
Oh man, well, I'm so sad to disappoint here, but if the general, this is a sort of a sad metaphor, but if you can't imagine like a really, really hardcore university researcher performing a study on it, I probably don't know about it, and I'm really not an expert on the cooking techniques. The one area though that I am when I was more involved in the bodybuilding community, that's where I really saw people pushing the limits of like, okay, I'm at 8% body fat, and I'm, how do I get to 6? That's something that's not at all mainstream, and clinical researchers really don't. The question is not how do we get our society from 8% to 6% body fat. It's how do we avoid everyone dying of heart disease. So I think maybe, and Sean, let me know what you think. Looking into the more hardcore bodybuilding community might be an interesting place to look.
I've been doing the Body by Science and Super Slow protocol for about the last 8 months now. I even got my wife on it, and I'm still trying to locate a facility that has like highbrow equipment like MedX or RenX or something like that. But so yes, I agree with that, and I feel like as I'm diving into getting deeper into that community, and I didn't know about the eccentric training, so I actually pulled that up on my browser, and I'm gonna get knee deep in that stuff too. So I thank you for that. And also my last kind of one is, with the paleo community, obviously everybody is kind of like putting their own little template, their own little spin on it, And one thing that the Bulletproof exec, Dave Asprey, has brought to the table is the whole concept of mycotoxins, which I think directly plays in with your SANE kind of high-quality stuff. And I was just wondering if you had, beyond just the generalization of like, high-quality food is relevant, but if you could shed any of your personal light on things like, for example, spices. Like a lot of people are cooking at home and they think that they're doing a lot of good things, but they could potentially be using spices in their food that are like full of toxins or something like that. So just anything relevant to mycotoxins or just toxins in places that could take a higher quality food and maybe like degrade a little bit because it's got like a little bit more toxic contents in it because of how it was processed or, treated or how long it's been sitting on a shelf somewhere or something like that.
And Jonathan, we got four more callers in 10 minutes, so if you can keep it brief, that would be awesome.
Okay, no, I will, because so sadly, Tori, this is the Smarter Science of Slim is really focused on making a lot of these kind of concepts mainstream, and because of that, the sort of level of the level of excellence that you're after, like I don't think the Smarter Science of Slim will disappoint you, but it intentionally does not go to that level, simply because I've met very few people that are as excellent and as passionate about this as you. So sadly, my research didn't go in that direction, not because it's not useful, because it absolutely is, and I'm personally passionate about it, but there's not a lot of people like you, Tori. So sadly, I didn't look too much into that.
They're on
I apologize
their way.
that I can't.
Every guest that I've heard thus far is like not far behind me. It just happened to be where I was at a place in my life where I was ready to get hardcore about it. But there are a lot of people that are ready to like take these steps, and it's people like you writing your book and Sean and everybody else in the community that are doing amazing things that are helping propel us all to this like fantastic level of being. So, kudos to both of you guys.
Thanks, Tori. Appreciate you calling in. I'll get you set up with Darkside for sure. Email me.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Yep. All right, let's keep rolling. Probably not going to get to all of the calls because we only have so much time left, but let's go to the 313. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Stephanie. I'm actually calling from Atlanta from my Detroit phone number.
Nice. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah. So I love your show and your blog, and thanks for taking my call. And not just to continue to plug it, but I also love my Vitamix and actually and I just bought the 32-ounce container just to make things a little bit easier. So I highly recommend that too.
Awesome.
But Jonathan, I'm planning on buying your book, but I saw on your high-quality and low-quality food list legumes on there. And I was just curious about what you found in your research as it relates to soy and hormones, and if soy is even on your list.
Yeah, well, soy is in the legume category, and that is classified as sanity is a spectrum where there's like extremely sane and extremely insane, and legumes fall right in the middle, in the sense that they're not sane or insane. They're something which, if we never ate them, we'd be okay. My research shows that if we eat like 1 or 2 servings of them a day, we're probably not going to die because of it or get a chronic disease or have hormonal havoc because of it. But it's not something that I say eat more. Like, do not go out of your way to consume more of it. It's right in the middle.
Okay. All right, just curious what you found. That's it. I know you got some other callers. That's it for tonight. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you.
And let's go to the 515. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey guys, this is Matt. I'm from Iowa. Have a question for you too. I play around with my diet quite a bit, and last week, I don't bounce around quite like that, but last week it was a very low carb, pretty much keto diet, and I don't want to sound as vulgar don't want to sound that vulgar, but I pretty much had no bowel movements last week on the keto diet, and keep playing around with my diet. Pretty paleo this week, and I noticed that I have a lot more bowel movements this week. What do you guys say on maybe a keto diet, or what stool or the amount of stool you have is reflective of what you're absorbing or assimilating?
Well, I mean, what I would say, my research does not recommend a keto diet long term, simply because, again, non-starchy vegetables are a critical component of long-term and sustainable health and fitness. And when you consume a lot of non-starchy vegetables, you will be consuming a decent percentage of your calories from carbohydrate, which is not bad, and you will have frequent and substantive bowel movements due to all of the fiber found in those foods. So, if you're not having at least one bowel movement a day, my research would suggest that long-term, your diet could be a bit more healthy. Long-term. That doesn't mean that there aren't periods in time where a keto diet may be useful, but long-term, I would suggest a diet that has more frequent and more substantive bowel movements.
Matt, thanks for calling in, man.
Hey, yeah, thank you.
Yep. All right, let's squeeze one more in. A caller from the 562. Welcome to my show. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, Sean?
Yes, what's up?
Oh, hi. This is Josephina calling from Los Angeles, California.
Thanks for calling in, Josephina. What is your question?
My question is, I've been on paleo diet, and I know that earlier, seems like peanuts still be consumed, because I know we all know in paleo we don't really consume peanuts because it's part of legumes. So I just want to know what's the thought on legumes.
What was the end of that? You want to know what about legumes?
About the legumes, what's his thought about legumes, consuming legumes that's non-fermented, especially?
What's bad about it?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, is the question what's bad about consuming legumes?
Yeah, what's his thought about it? What's his opinion about it?
Oh, sorry. So yes, a sane lifestyle is a bit different from paleo lifestyle in the sense that it's a bit more permissive. My understanding of paleo is that legumes are generally sort of pushed to the side a bit, as well as dairy. The research I did does not, there are low-quality legumes and high-quality legumes, and there's low-quality dairy and high-quality dairy. The only thing that is just outright bad is starches and sweets. And, of course, there's better starches, but they're just bad. My research shows that consumption of 0 to 2 servings of legumes of a high-quality variant per day can contribute to long-term health and fitness, and certainly would not, do what a sugar or a starch would do.
Oh, okay. So what are your thoughts about grains like rice, like white rice, brown rice? Are they also a high quality, or?
No, grain is one step away from sugar. I mean, when you eat a bowl full of rice, metabolically, you are essentially eating a bowl full of sugar. There is no, if you took people, it has fiber in it. If you sprinkle a fiber supplement on top of a Snickers bar, it doesn't make the Snickers bar healthy for you. So, Dr. Davis of Wheat Belly talks about, if you put a filter on a cigarette, it's still bad for you. It's the same kind of thing here. Grains, and it doesn't mean they'll kill you. It just means if our goal is to eat foods that science has proven to be beneficial for health and for fitness, rather than just not killing us, we would avoid all starches and all sweets.
Josephina, thanks for calling in. I got a wrap.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good stuff, man. Really, really good show, Jonathan. I really appreciate you coming on. Your book is The Smarter Science of Slim, Scientific Proof, Fat Loss Facts. Fantastic stuff you got going on. Your website is thesmarterscienceofslim.com, so everybody go over there and check that baby out. Gosh, man, you got any closing comments for the audience tonight?
Well, I just want to thank you, Sean, for having me, and I want to encourage. Your audience is one that's scientifically minded, and that just encourages me and makes me happy. And I hope we can all work together to bring the facts back to fat loss. So it excites me.
I dig it, my man. Thanks so much for being on, and the show rocked, and we'll certainly have you on again.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sean. You have a good one, brother.
Yep, you too. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Reminder to all of the people who called into the show tonight, you guys get a free Paleo Summit, so send me an email, Sean@undergroundwellness.com. I've got your phone numbers right here in front of me, at least the first 6 digits, so go ahead and send me an email, and I will get that sent out to you. It's a downloadable product, and so you don't have to send your mailing address. I will see you guys next Thursday with... oh, man, why did I forget the man's name? Peter Cohen. We'll be talking about fat loss and health and personal development stuff, yada, 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 yada. And I told you guys, when I'm not fully ready for a show, they're always the best ones. It's really weird. I have to do this more often. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys next time. Peace out.